Morning, guys. Happy Thursday. It's me and Bear here. Most of you commented yesterday on the post about what we had read so far for Letters from Rifka, and we had left off on chapter 3, page 25. I am going to be posting the pages in the Google Classroom so you guys can listen to my audio. If you prefer the audio on YouTube, you can just look it up, or if you want to just read on your own, you can look at the pages that I posted, okay? So most of us yesterday commented on what was happening where we left off before we left, and we talked about how Rifka's traveling with her family, her mom, her dad, Nathan and Saul, and that they're leaving Russia. And their ultimate goal was to get to America, and they were leaving Russia because of the discrimination that Jewish people were facing post-World War I, but before World War II. So they're on their way to Russia, and we left off with them in Poland. When they initially got to Poland, they weren't treated great. They were forced to get off the train. Mama's candlesticks were stolen, and they're just, in general, not greeted properly. So Rifka ends up getting sick with typhus, and eventually her family ends up getting sick with typhus as well, except for her brother Saul. And as you guys know, her and Saul don't have the greatest relationship, so we kind of left off with it just being her and Saul. Remember, the framing device for this novel, meaning how it's set up, how we're reading it, is that she's writing the book in her volume of poetry by Pushkin. So every chapter starts with a quote from Pushkin, who remembers a Russian poet from Rifka's time period. And she's received that as a gift from her cousin Tova. So every entry or every chapter, we could call it, is a letter. And she's writing a letter to her cousin Tova in her Pushkin, okay? So we're on page 26. That's about where we left off. And we're going to have to see what happens with Rifka, because the initial examination said that she was very, very sick, and she doesn't know how the rest of her family is doing besides Saul, all right? So page 26. A thirst in spirit through the gloom of an unpeopled waste I blundered. Pushkin. November 3rd, 1919, Mossov, Poland. Dear Tova, I am doing much better now. When I was well enough to move, Saul went out and found a new room for us to live in. We cannot stay any longer in this shed, he said. Papa's family did not try to keep us from leaving. We had brought illness with us and bad luck. We had taken from their table food they could not spare. The room Saul found for us in a cheap, rundown inn. The innkeeper hosts a large market outside his establishment every Wednesday. Merchants bring their wares, and the innkeeper sells tea and rolls and buns. I think he makes a lot of money. Market days are noisy. When my head aches, I cannot bear it. On my good days, though, I like to look out at the commotion. Saul says the innkeeper is a thief, but we will stay here until Mama and Papa and Nathan are out of the hospital. Saul found work to pay for our room and our food. He sorts apples in an orchard outside the village. At dawn, before leaving for work, Saul goes out to the street. He brings back breakfast for us, a herring and 2 rolls, so herring being a fish. Each morning when he comes out with the food, Tova, he splits it exactly in half. Even though he's bigger and needs more, he divides our food evenly. Each day we eat our herring and roll in a few bites and lick our fingertips to catch the crumbs. Then Saul leaves. One day I took only a bite of my herring and decided to save the rest. I told Saul I was not hungry. It was a lie. I was hungry. I'm hungry all the time. When I am awake, all I think about is food. When I sleep, I dream of it. My stomach twists and burns with emptiness. But on this morning I thought, for once Saul is nice to me. I should be the same with him. Saul is working. He needs to eat more than I do. If I save my share of breakfast, it will be waiting for him in the evening when he returns. So we can start to see Saul and Rifka's relationship develop a little bit. Initially, they didn't really get along. He's much bigger than her, and even though he's working and he's a lot bigger, he is really portraying that he cares for Rifka, right? He splits all the food in half, and she decides to return that to him by saving a little bit for him, even though they don't have much food. I was still weak, but I knew I must get up and stow the herring and roll in the closet near my cot. If I had not put it away for myself, I would eat it. My stomach nodded painfully, and in spite of my best intentions, I took another bite of the herring before I closed the closet door. I hope you will not think I am too selfish, Tova. I turned my back on my precious food and tumbled into my cot, falling asleep immediately. Movement in the room awakened me. At first, I thought Saul had come back, but it was not Saul. It was the girl whose father owns the inn. She sat on the edge of my cot, her thick, greasy braid hanging down her back. She was eating something, herring and roll. The closet door was open. She was eating my herring and roll. "Thief!" I cried in Russian. "Give me back my food." She ignored me. She sat on my cot, chewing. I tried to get my roll back from her. She brushed me aside and laughed at me, Tova. She has so much food of her own. Always when I see her passing by my room, she is chewing, her red cheeks swollen like a squirrel with a nut. The girl had spied on me. She had seen me save my food in the little closet and had come in and taken it for herself. That family, they have rolls and buns all the time. It is the father's business. I dragged myself from the drafty room Saul and I share and stand, swaying unsteadily in front of the bakery cases, staring at the innkeeper's food. I am so hungry, but no one offers me a crumb. The girl would be chewing, her tongue flicking out to catch a piece of bun and bring it back into her mouth again. She has all this food and she has to steal from me? When Saul got back that evening, I told him about the girl stealing my food. I thought I would catch her and beat her up. Saul said, "Next time don't save your food, Rifka. Eat it. Then she can't take it from you." And that was that. With Saul gone all day, I felt lonely. Not that he was such good company, but I hated being alone, separated from Mama and Papa. In Berdichev, I could have gone to you, or to Aunt Anna, or to Bubby Ruth. But I was in a strange country with no one to go to. I certainly would not go to the innkeeper's daughter, that dirty thief. So when I grew strong enough, I started walking through Matzev. I found my way to the low, sprawling hospital where they were keeping Mama. I discovered a wooden ledge outside the window of Mama's ward and climbed on it to look in on her. Mama lay in a narrow bed, as white as the sheet on top of her. Everything about Mama was white except her black hair. Her hair was like a dark stain on the hospital linens, and her eyes remained closed, her thick lashes resting on white cheeks. She looked dead, Tova, and I kept staring, waiting for her to move. When the hospital workers caught me looking in at Mama, they yelled at me. They chased me away from the building. They couldn't understand that I needed to see Mama move. I needed to know she was alive. So the next day I came back, and the next day, and the next. The Polish language had started making sense to me, Tova. I didn't need to be clever to know I should stay out of the hospital workers' way, but I could not stay away from Mama. So remember, Rivka's uncle Avram says that Rivka has a gift for language, so she can kind of pick up languages very quickly. Then, just this morning, a doctor caught me looking in at Mama. He did not chase me away. He lifted me down off the ledge. "What are you doing here?" the doctor asked. "I am watching over my Mama," I explained. The doctor asked, "Have you had the typhus?" "Yes," I told him, "but I am better now." The doctor said, "Come." He let me inside the hospital and sat me in a chair next to Mama's cot. "Once you have suffered through the typhus, you cannot have it again," the doctor explained. "It will do you no harm to sit with her. It may do her some good." I held Mama's hand and talked to her all the rest of today. I'm going to think about how that's possibly one of the first random characters or strangers that actually treats Rivka with kindness, right? Obviously her uncle, when they first went to Matzev, took them in the shed but didn't really want them there, but this is kind of the first stranger that's actually really nice to Rivka. I even got to eat a potato out of the big pot brought by a lady who feeds the hospital patients. They are good potatoes, Tova. Since I have been sick, everything tastes good. How skinny I've become. But not Saul. He's as big as a horse. His legs have grown so long just since we left Russia. You should see how they sprout from his pants. Even with all my things on, my underwear and my 2 extra dresses and my cloak and shawl, I still do not look fat. Remember how in Berdichev the Russian guards would come to inspect the homes of the Jews? They made certain we owned no more than our allowance. Always, when the guards were coming, Mama would say, "Rivka, put all your clothes on." I would rush and throw my dresses over my head and stand out in front of the house to watch. The guards would search through our rooms. They did not find more than 2 of anything. How could they find anything extra in our house? In your house there are many fine things, Tova, but they never inspected your house. The guards would look at me layered in all my belongings and say, "Fat kid." With my dresses and cloak and my shawl piled on top of me, I looked as short and round as a barrel. I am no longer round, but I am still short. I wonder if I will ever grow, Tova. Maybe Maybe it will be all right that I am short in America. If I get Bubby Ruth to come, there would at least be 2 of us. If I could get Bubby Ruth to come. She does not stay because she is comfortable and safe like you and Hannah and Uncle Avram. Bubby Ruth stays because she is afraid to leave, afraid for things to change. I'm afraid too, but not so afraid that I want to come back. I would like it best if you and Hannah and Uncle Avram and Aunt Anna and Bubby Ruth and all the others were coming to America too. I'm trying to be clever, Tova, but how much more clever I could be, surrounded by my family. Shalom, my cousin, Rifka. So remember in that first chapter or 2, Rifka is thinking about how Tova had told her that it's best to be a clever girl, right? And that's what she was thinking about when she initially gets him past the guards to leave Russia. How she wishes that she's clever. So she's trying to keep her promise to Tova and really become clever and take care of herself. Think back to the guards inspecting their house in Russia. We read about that in one of our articles a month or so ago, that they were only allowed to own 2 of anything. So Rifka only has 2 dresses. She's got a shawl. She doesn't have much, right? All right. So, my friends, if you want to go back and reread it alone, that's fine. But that is it for our reading today. I hope everyone's doing all right. I miss you guys. Any questions, just comment. Let me know. You can email me anytime. Have a good weekend.